Thanks very much. Our last prepared speech is by someone who's done so many. I think we just run out of numbers. To introduce her, it is Phil. It's to evaluate Phil. Over to you.
Thank you. So Julie is speaking on her presentation mastery path, and this is the first project in the third. The first speech in the third project. So her objective is to present a speech on any topic that lends itself to speaking persuasively.
And the title is We Know. What do we know? We know first that we don't know everything. When we don't know anything, it is no problem. No. And Bernard Shaw told this with a bicycle in mind 100 years ago already. And then we arrive in a stage when we know that we don't know. And that is not so agreeable to us. And next, finally, we learn. And we know that we know. And late, we become experts and sometimes even forget how we learned and what we know. I experienced that first when I was a child, a 12-year-old, and my father came with me in a park and tried to teach me to ride my new bike, which I just got. And he kept me, and I went and went. He forgot to tell me how to stop. And when he let me go, I didn't know. And finally, I stopped in a tree. It was not a good landing. So he was a good teacher and put me again on the bicycle, teaching me different ways to stop. And next, I did stop with the brakes. And another time I stopped with my leg down. So I learned. And I knew finally how to use a bicycle, and I used it to go to school every day without thinking anymore how I do it. Toastmasters, do you know, is not a failed pass organization. We don't fail. We cannot fail. Anything I tell you, anything anyone tell you, once we do it, we're done. If it is good, it is good. If it is less good, the evaluator tells you, eventually next time you can do and gives us something, advice. But no one, even the VP or the district governor can tell us, no one, do it again. We can do it again if we want, but no one can tell us. For 100 years, it was like always like this. Now, in Pathway, it is even better. If Phil evaluate me now in speaking, I can still ask someone else, Peter or Donovan or Fernando, to send me also written feedback. And I can use which feedbacks I want. That is very specific to Pathway. And of course, it's very important how you evaluate yourself, how you judge yourself, and what you think was not good from your speech. That is why it is so wonderful that we record our meetings and I can look back at my speech and listen and see what I did well, what I didn't do well. Did I put my hands too near, or did I put my hands down so no one could see it, and so on. And of course, we can repeat our speech if we want to. If we have a pleasure to do it, we can repeat them, but only if we want to. And we can repeat them to learn better or to make a new beginning or a new end or add a new meaning to it. And most important, to make it sound like it is good for this audience. Each audience and each time, a certain way of telling is important. What I learned the most in the humorous path, it teaches you that you can have many ending, beginning, and you have to adapt every personal story to each telling. But I tell you now, I would not tell you exactly the same next time. So if I want to repeat it, of course, I will repeat it. Perhaps you will not even recognize it. I will change it so much. Or I will repeat it in another club, or in a few months' time, you will remember vaguely that I told something about a bicycle, but that is all. Modern learning pathway is extremely good. And the transition period, which we had with different educational speech, is now finished. Now we have all of us pathway educational program, and we should begin and speak about it more and more so everyone understands how it is. And make a video of it is one of the reasons, one of the good things. We can also make online presentations, online question and answers. Pandemic was good to something. We can do more online now. We can learn how to speak online better. The end is, I would like to say you, as I first gained a humorous contest with Dare to Fail. Dare to fail. I don't think that every speech is that or nothing. In Toastmaster, we can again and again tell it better and differently.
Great, thank you. Some good points there. So if I can call you back up to the stage to evaluate Julie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. So Julie's objective was to try and persuade us to give a speech that persuaded us of a topic, and Julie's a very experienced speaker, and she, I think she did that very well. She persuaded us of the value of Toastmasters and of coming up and giving a speech, and even giving that same speech again and again. I think she did that very effectively, and I thought there were some really interesting techniques that she used and the way she spoke and some of the things she said that really helped to really persuade us to bring out the argument in her speech. So she started with that rhetorical question and drew us in. Her speech was called "What Do We Know?" and she just asked it straight out and said, "Well, what do we know?" And then it evolved. We know what we don't know, and on it went. And she said, and it's only then when we know what we don't know that we learn. And in that introduction, that, I don't know about you, but that really drew me into her speech. I was interested to know, well, what do we know? What do I know? What don't I know? What am I going to learn in this speech? It asked me those questions, and it made me, hooked me from the beginning, and it made me want to listen further. Julie, like Luciana, told a story, and that was really powerful. You know, she spoke about being a little girl as well, and talked about being, you know, learning to ride a bike. And then she had that lovely pause where she said, "But my dad didn't tell me how to stop." And again, you know, oh, I'm just, you know, I want to know what's going on. How is this going to end? Is she going to bang her head? Is she going to learn to ride the bike? And you know, and her tone and her body language helped to you know, bring that to life. She had lovely eye contact. It was a lovely kind of metaphor for the kind of framework of knowledge that she wanted to convey about Toastmasters not being a pass or fail organization, and that you're not doomed to fail. And I think that tone of voice and those words, that kind of imagery is was a really powerful way to help persuade us that we can keep growing and building our confidence as public speakers. And even if we haven't had such a good speech, well, it doesn't matter, because we can go back and we can try again, or we can fall off our bike, or we can hit a tree, and it's all okay. I thought Julie gave a fantastic speech. My only recommendation to her would be that she halfway through her speech she introduced a book, and I don't think the book was part of the speech. She didn't make any wider reference to it. I think it was a kind of prop because it had a word that was relevant to the transition and to the change in the Toastmasters curriculum. So my recommendation would be not to kind of introduce things like that unless they have a clear and direct purpose in the speech. But I thought it was a very, very good, articulate speech, and I thought she used some really interesting persuasive techniques to make me want to give my next speech, and to us all too, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Phil. So that is the end of the